The goal for today was for them to understand that physical landforms and can be boundaries, but also have the ability to like unite people together. That's why we started the lesson with like, hey, what do you think about mountains? Giving them kind of the pre-thinking activity. The idea that geography can be a uniter, but also like a separator of peoples, and knowing what's going to come next in the unit, laying that foundation for how much geography impacts Greece and Rome settlements was the main purpose.
All you're going to have to do is one feature. So let's say, for example, we're done talking, and this table goes and they share something about mountain. Someone else will go, but you can't talk about mountain. You gotta talk about something different. Each of these, does it unite or divide people?
Both rivers and mountains are kind of both.
Okay.
Mountains like push people into the valleys.
Okay. So what about plains?
Plains bring people together. It's just a wild.
Because like people want to farm it.
Okay.
They be like want to go there.
Okay, so go with that. Plains we talked about, there's like farming, and so does that bring people together or separate them?
We talked about most of them already.
Wait, what about peninsula?
I don't know, because they have someone like kind of connecting at the top,
Okay.
but all around them they're kind of surrounded with water, so they don't have like much connection to people besides it there. But if you're like all the way on the end,
Okay.
then you're kind of like alone.
I mean, you're gonna be all by yourself?
No, but like it depends on the population of the
I
area.
think I'm gonna just share.
So some of them, when you share out, it doesn't have to be necessarily one or the other. The way you're gonna share is you're gonna say, we're gonna talk about peninsulas, and we say United Divide. Who wants to go first? Rose does. Hi.
Peninsula can divide people because they're hard to like climb over and they're like a big obstacle.
They are a big obstacle. They are tough to climb over. And then therefore they divide people. Cool. Thanks. Jeff.
I honestly archipelagos because they kind of divide people because you can see when we learn like Japan how like the islands, like people on the islands were divided and they didn't really know where the other people was.
Okay, so, and you referenced when we talked about Japan before, they are all islands and the people who lived on separate ones, I mean, for a while, they didn't even know there were other people there.
Vocabulary is always a key for when we start units. So we start with a map of the area, but also with like key terms. These words the students had seen through our previous units. So mountains and rivers are pretty commonplace to our discussion. Plains being where early peoples can farm, and flatland is what they're looking for. I had previewed the lesson and saw that archipelago was a term that we had not used with great frequency. So we readjusted our vocabulary list to add that to the vocab list so they kind of get a preview to the word. So going over it, I was pretty confident that they knew most of them. From the sharings, I was pretty happy with their knowledge base and we were ready to move on. And I knew that the readings also explained some of them as well. We also made sure the readings were clear by going over them ahead of time.
We're going to explore some specific places in Europe that fit into these categories. And your job is you're gonna actually find these. You're gonna take your binders and move them to the side. And then two, after you do that, in your manila folders thing, there are white pieces of paper. Everybody needs a white piece of paper. You're gonna locate each geographic feature, look for the symbols. So, if I'm here at this station, this one is the mountain station. And so when I'm at the mountain station, I want to look on my map for these upside down V's / like Greek letters. And so on your map on the backside, you're going to try to find all of those. When you locate those, you're going to write the name of each feature on your map. So on the mountain stage, there are like 3 sets of mountains. I need to find the names on the other side of my piece of paper and then write them next to the mountains. When I do that, I check them off because checking things off a list makes me feel happy and like I've done something. And it also makes sure you don't miss anything. Find the symbols, label the symbols. The person who is the reader is going to whisper read this to everybody, which we've done this before. And there's 2 copies so that everyone else can kind of follow along while that person reads. You're going to fill out part 2 on the front side, where you're going to like pick a specific location, come up with 3 adjectives to describe it, and then write down where it is.
I find that sometimes the lessons give you a direction they want you to go, but it takes a lot of teacher experience and how to know these moves to make it work most efficiently. So there's more structure pieces that I added that weren't in the lesson flow because I understand how my students work and what we've done through the course of the year. When I posted like the directions of what you're supposed to do at each site on the board, I had contemplated putting a piece of paper on each desk with like, here are the steps you're going to do. But then I just felt that was another piece of paper and they already had plenty. So I feel like I went ahead, planned how each step was going to go, but then also making sure that the directions are clear at the beginning by asking if they need clarification. The tables are also set up with intentionality that there's some anchor students who can kind of be the ones who can support and get the other ones to move on. So those are choices that are made when I do seating charts. So it's all very planned and strategic. And so activities like this can go off relatively smoothly, considering, like you said, how many transitions there are.
Where are those four pockets of water? They should be like right here.
So this is Finland.
Finland.
The Seine is not here. South, west of that. Yeah, like that.
And then the Seine is the river, the famous river in Paris.
Some of the hard parts were finding like where the symbols are in the maps. I found that I was kind of helping them and pointing them more than I would in like other experiences that we've done. Some of the rivers, for example, in this particular one, I was kind of pointing out like, well, this is this one you're supposed to be looking at. The key of like looking at the reading was something I found myself reminding them. I found that they needed a little more affirmation this time. They're students who I've seen be confident before, and there was a little less of that today, but they just wanted to be right.
So France, Italy, Spain, I guess. Well, Switzerland for sure.
No, it's not Spain.
Switzerland.
Yeah, so, and that's why, so this is the Danubian plain, because the Danube River goes through it. Danubian is the adjective form of Danube. Most of the times that I find some sort of modification needs to be done has to do with the readings. The intent is to get them to investigate sources in ancient history. It's difficult to find them, period, let alone find ones that are accessible to 7th graders. Some of the terms that I mentioned I had identified ahead of time, so we already set up like a vocabulary list for them to review. But that goal was to have a more confident reader go through the text and having the others be able to follow along. And for my English language learners, like at least they'll be able to identify what the word looks like and then hear what a native English speaker would do. So that's kind of one of those added pieces that I put in there that wasn't in the directions. I think the lesson flow was like, have the students read the text, which again seemed a little open for my kids, so I needed something a little more direct and supportive, like within the group.
Snowy, north, cold. And then there's a bunch of rivers there.
Big one, you're doing that one and this one right here. So 1, 2, and 3. Those are your 3.
Yeah, let's do Iberian. So I think we could write like economy because it's helpful for the economy. Like access.
Isn't access and travel the same thing?
Well, it actually names a few here, so we can do Portugal, Greece.
We kind of have an idea, and you can see on the map. The problem is on your map, there aren't 3 dots.
You're going to share out your choice that your group made, and you're going to share out one of the adjectives or descriptor words that you chose, and we're going to put them up here. What do you got?
Alps. Very tall.
Very tall. Thank you.
Norway, close to the Arctic Ocean.
Talking about the Norwegian Peninsula, and you're saying close to Arctic?
Yeah. On the Norwegian Sea.
Cool. Thank you.
We picked the Iberian Peninsula, and the word we used was trade.
And the word used is trade. I get why Alps is tall. I get why this is close to the Arctic Circle. Yes, we get Laos. Why'd you choose trade here?
They have that whole ocean right next to them on the right, which means they can travel to France or Italy or any of those countries right in there.
Yes, they're on a peninsula and surrounded by water, but they can still use that water to like connect with other people and then trade.